what was Andrea like as a kid?
Oh gosh, really? I was I was kind of shy and quiet. I came to the United States a long time ago, okay? To the point where I'm from Romania, so my name is I'm completely Romanian. Andreea Cojocariu is how you actually say it. Um, so I was this like quirky immigrant kid, okay? Um, and there's a story about how like we won the visa lottery to come to the States. Okay, so we spent from took a train from Romania to Italy, and I remember throwing a fit about bananas because there was bugs in the bananas, but they were the seeds. Okay, but I was this quirky Romanian kid who ate weird food. Okay, very shy, but then when I opened up, and I was very outspoken. Okay, I was big sister, very bossy. Still, I'm very bossy. Okay, if you ask my brothers, my sons, I just visited my son's school, and they're like, "Mom, the kids think you're intimidating." I'm like, "Well, I don't mean to be." So it's just being the daughter, being the oldest, and much less the daughter, and I had two younger brothers. I was very much mom, but I also like big, I was just in charge of the house. I don't know how to say that. I think what truly has impacted me the most, that's probably more important to your audience, is the fact that when my mom remarried, my parents got divorced at a young age. Um, she married an entrepreneur. Okay. And so that my stepdad, may he rest in peace, he's gone, truly shaped me because he gave me an opportunity to truly like to be in the business. Although I had no interest in business at all whatsoever. Like I rewrote contracts at the age of like 14. Okay. Like I would do marketing and like here, put together a poster. And like I didn't even like as a kid, you're like, whatever, dad. Like, you don't pay attention to that stuff. But I had this opportunity to do all that stuff. Anytime I would argue with my dad, he would tell me to go write a paper, go do research and go write a paper. And so that so I was very much very like I was a nerd child. Okay, my son is a nerd child. I'm a nerd. I was a nerd child. Um, very focused on school. I did a lot of singing and music, which is why my son, we're moving to California for his music. So yeah, but very bossy and very outspoken when I needed to be, but quiet also when I had to be as well.
Wonderful. I just want to ask in terms of like, what did you want to be? While
Oh,
did you have something that you
I
wanted to
did.
be, or yeah, okay,
So the plan was always for me to be an attorney, of all things. Okay, so because everyone's like, you're really good at arguing, let's just have you go be the family attorney. um, but then I when my parents divorced, you're gonna get so much personal information on me. They I went to go live with my dad and my stepmom, and uh, I realized I could graduate high school early. So I had the credits, so I graduated high school in 3 years. I was a smart cookie back then, maybe kind of still am. Um, and so I did, and because I was 16, 17, they were like, okay, you have to have a plan. And on my stepmom's side, they were all educators, so they said, okay, Andrea, if you want to be a lawyer, you still have to go to undergrad. So why don't you have a backup plan and go be a teacher? And I'm like, I'll be a high school English teacher. That's easy. I can write papers all day long. Okay, why not teach it? So I was going to be a high school English teacher on my way to be an attorney. Okay, that did not happen, obviously. When I got to college, I realized that I was just really good at other things. Like I got to the student teaching part, and I realized that I would fail every one of the students. Like my tolerance for what I was getting was like a zero, so my patience level was not there.
okay, okay. And because the reason why I ask you this is because most of what we do in our childhood kind of shapes who we are later in the future. But I think the you even answered it very specifically that your stepfather was an entrepreneur, and that is where most of it you acquired. But was there an active choice that you chose that I want to be an entrepreneur? Like when was it that you said that that you either want to be an entrepreneur or something in a leadership position?
I knew I was always a leader. Like I didn't choose. I didn't like. I would never go for leadership roles. I was always chosen for leadership roles. Okay, even as a kid, I'm a very like faith based woman. Like Jesus is a big part of my life, and so even as a kid, I was part of this church, First Presbyterian Church in Carbondale, Illinois, of all places. We were a college town, and there was this interfaith youth council that my church wanted to be a part of, and so we got together with other high school kids, other churches, and they're like, we need a leader. And so other students of all things, okay, who knew me, my peers, were like, well, Andreea should just be the president of this organization. And I'm like, what? Fine, why not? So I was always chosen by my peers or by other people to step into leadership. I was bossy at home, but I in public, um, I was always like the good kid, the good student. I like high achieving always, right? But I never saw myself as a leader. Choosing entrepreneurship really came to be because I just knew I could do things differently. And even just in the role that I'm in, we're going to talk about it. It's doing things differently, and like not like you have to break through the noise. And so I'm good at breaking through the noise.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point that you said. Like when I've noticed this with a lot of entrepreneurs, people they don't sign up for the leadership roles. They don't sign up, and then they're not given the badge. But what is the quality that you see in current entrepreneurs, or you saw in yourself, that is something that makes them a leader? Is it taking a risk? Is it taking responsibility? Or is it having a view of the entire board that others don't see? What is maybe one or two things that
I think that's a lot of it's a probably a combination of all those things. For me, it's I care about the collective good. Okay, being the oldest, right? I'm gonna like I had to take care of my little brothers. I had to take care of the household. Like being part of an immigrant family is like you take on a lot of roles as the oldest. So knowing that like I feel a heavy sense of responsibility for people around me, even those on not on my team. Okay, I mentor people not on my team. Um, or teams. So it to me, there's a level of responsibility to do the most good. Okay, that's the Salvation Army's motto, by the way. And I did do work with them in the past. But it's also a level of like you can't a risk taking, and you have to be able to do things differently to make a positive impact. So I think it's a combination of both. It's wanting to do the most good to make a positive impact, but in order to do that, you can't follow the crowd. You have to break through the crowd.
doing something differently inherently accounts for risk, right? You're taking a risk of being even wrong, right? It might work, it might not work, but I think doing something differently inherently has a risk in it. Wonderful. Okay, and then when you started off your first job, when you stepped into the first job, did you feel overwhelmed, or did you feel that I've been doing this all my life and then I'm just getting paid?
Oh, so it was a lot of change was happening right then. Okay, I just recently got married really young. Don't get married young, folks. Okay, I got married really young, and it was like I made the decision to not teach. Okay, so I had to quickly pivot to graduate. Um, and so I just landed with an English degree and a speech comm minor. Okay. And so my first job was being an editor at a small food safety firm in St. Louis. Okay. Super tiny firm. We did food safety audits. I can tell you about our food system. It's scary. Um, or that was a long time ago. So I'm sure it's changed, but I'm writing, and I get to pretty much grade adult papers is what it felt like. So, I felt a little bit like a fish out of water because I was also thrown into, hey, we're really small, and we need you to do PR. Hey, we're really small. We need you to do graphics, and which is not my forte. And oh, by the way, here's IT. So work with IT to build a website. And oh, we need to get found on search. Do you know anything about SEO? And I really had no idea. So I literally had to teach myself. So I felt like a fish out of water. My first job out of college.
Why did you not feel maybe why did you not feel overwhelmed? Why did you whenever you learned something, did you feel excited about it, or did you feel like this is some thing that I don't know, I'm going to know about it and then I'm going to do
No,
it?
I wasn't overwhelmed. It takes a lot to overwhelm me. I think that's just because, again, think about how I came to the States, right? I was yanked as a child away from everything that I knew. So like I can handle a lot before I raise my hand and say, I'm sorry, this is too much for me. So no, I think that part of how I grew up and being forced into constant change is kind of, you take the challenges as you go. I also have like a passion for learning in general. So, right after I was done with my bachelor's degree, my parents were on to me about, when are you going to go back for your master's? When are you going to go for your PhD? All this stuff. So learning never, like, that doesn't overwhelm me.
I think the reason I asked that was because a very important trait for entrepreneurs is to have a really high pain threshold.
Yes.
Basically, that you need to be able to take a lot amount of pain and then still be able to function, as in. So I think whenever the reason I was asking for whether you were feeling overwhelmed was because I wanted to find out if you had a really high pain threshold, and people
Oh, I
who
do.
really have a high one, they really excel in life.
So there's a story. When I had my son, um, I when I toured the hospitals, I said, "What's your Wi-Fi situation?" Okay. And they thought I was out of my mind. I was completely out of my mind. Okay. So one, the drugs they gave me to have my son, I reacted negatively to. So I'm like, I refused the drugs. Okay. I refused the pain meds after I had him. And then I'm not kidding. After I had him, I refused the drugs so I could be coherent. And I got my laptop out and I started working. So like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And when did you feel that you were different from your peers? The first, so you started off, you just started working in the company, and then you learned a lot of stuff, and then you did. When did like the management or companies identify you as to be unique, and you can give them any project and still be able to do it? When was that moment that came?
Well, I think it was so I really truly loved my first job. And the people they're long since retired. They're the Hugies out of St. Louis. I think they're in Wisconsin now. But he pretty much gave me freedom to explore and to test and to truly learn. Okay. Back then, I'm aging myself. Social media was just coming on board. Like Facebook had just opened up to the public. Okay. So not just university students. MySpace was a thing. Okay. Back then. Um, and I felt different when I was reviewing, like I was considering bringing on an agency to help me with the SEO and the website. But I was also launching social media for the first time. Okay. And no one else was doing social media. So I launched what was it? I think it was a Facebook group for an event to get event attendees, like in person attendees. Okay, so this was like a long time ago. I felt different then from the very very beginning, and then I went on to work at a company called Network Solutions, which was then bought by Web.com. I still have like my contacts there. One of them, Sashi, is still a mentor to me. Um, and there I launched a social media product for the agency side.
Okay, what was your understanding of distribution then? When you understood, when you found out social media, did you think that this was going to be the next thing? Did you feel that right off the
I
bat?
did. I did. So I'm an early adopter naturally. Okay, I didn't realize that back then, but to me, it felt like, okay, well, this people are going to come to be on Facebook because they want to connect with their kids, right? And especially the opportunity for family members to connect nationwide, right, with their students. That's where I felt that it was there. And the market was, these older, midlife adults, right? So 30 to 40-year olds. I mean, the 30-year-old is not midlife, but you know what I'm saying. Like the people who are attending would be trying to connect with their students.
Right. But what was your an understanding of distribution? Like, what were you working on back then? What product was it? B2B or B2C?
Still B2B. It was B2B. It was us. It was the food safety firm reaching out to food manufacturers and food companies wanting to make sure that their food was safe, so certified safety. So it was definitely B2B. Did I understand it back then? Absolutely not. I had no idea what I was doing, but I did it.
Okay. Okay. And and after that, what was the next step that you took after that?
Oh, I went agency side. So then I really went B2B. I think every marketer, every salesperson should work in the agency side at least once in their life to help them truly understand the different sides. Um, that's where I really fine tuned my marketing skills. Like I really had an education there around SEO, PPC. I mean, I was on social media back then, and to truly understand what drives conversions. And that's when I was introduced to the data side of things. So it's not just, oh, Andrea put together a pretty website or write a pretty press release or a pretty ad copy or whatever it is, like actually do something to drive revenue and conversions. So I really, truly got that there.
What worked for you there? Like, what is something that you tried, maybe failed, and what's something that you tried and worked? I would more emphasis in terms of failure because, like, what was the learning that you kind of got there?
Well, when you work at an agency, you really have to write for different audiences really quickly. So pivoting, I mean, I think I probably failed more often than not there with the pivoting quickly from one business to another, and then so while we were marketing to B2B, we were also the work was B2B, B2C. So pivoting from that point of view too, from the audience type, was difficult. And I'm pretty sure I failed a lot there.
No, I mean, in terms of like what worked, like in terms of the content. Let's say, for example, you put out a content, and
Yeah.
then this converted better, and this did not convert. We thought this audience liked
Yeah.
this, and this audience did not like this. Something like that from that.
Well, what worked back then definitely doesn't work now.
Right, right, but I
What
want to understand how it kind of evolved.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely so back then articles. So you would have like different article sites, right? And you still see a lot of people do that now, which I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Please don't tell me to for backlinking, right? To go write these blind articles, these guest articles on all these different sites. But that worked back then. Okay.
Why does it not work now?
Well, because it's not authentic. And the reality is that the consumer is not on these article sites, and Google's not putting these article sites up as links anymore. They're looking for more authority, and I think we've just oversaturated content just for content's sake.
Okay, so back then it was only articles, like whenever like only articles
Articles,
that.
yeah.
Okay, okay, and then after that, what was the next step that you took after that?
I still stayed agency side, and then I went. I actually consulted because I left St. Louis. I was in St. Louis back then, and then I decided to work on a PhD program, and I moved to Atlanta. And so I went and I couldn't work remotely, so I blindly quit my job and had a baby and consulted. So that was my first step into entrepreneurship.
Okay, so you did like freelance consult, like you did all okay, okay. And why did you take that step? In terms of was it something that you wanted to build for yourself, or was it something that you were building and then there was some blocker that did not let you do that?
They wouldn't let me continue to work remotely, and I moving to Atlanta was probably one of the best things for me to do. Um, I looked at it from my St. Louis market was really small and saturated. It was basically a small town, but like a bigger small town. I think it still kind of is that way. No offense to St. Louis. Um, so I felt like Atlanta had more corporate opportunities, but I also really wanted to work on my PhD. So I didn't. Now I don't have my PhD because I realized that it's not that being a mom is more important, but it was really truly I wanted to research of all crazy things. I wanted to learn and research and be part of contributing to research. That's what I wanted to do.
What did you want to do your PhD in? What was the something that you wanted to do it in?
It was business of all things. I was crazy. Um, so I had a hypothesis, and that hypothesis was what I'm doing right now. It was that you truly have to have an integrated approach to marketing for you to drive revenue. Um, and then I realized that I don't need to spend thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on my education to do that research, that I could go work somewhere or do it for myself and get the same research.
Okay, and this is the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, right?
Yeah.
This is where it started.
Yeah.
Okay, and how did you scale it? Can you please tell us a story about this company?
Yeah. So, I mean, back, what was I? I was Smiling Marketers Consulting, and that was someone called me the Smiling Marketers because obviously my favorite word is joy, and I'm very happy in general. Um, so I started off just, posting on LinkedIn because I was really active, posting on social. That was a primary channel. I think a couple of clients found me on Twitter. And then I would go to freelance sites and find clients that way. And then I would find postings for part-time work and I just took them.
Okay, okay. And what kind of clientele did you kind of serve during this period? Was it fintech, healthcare, IT, any specific industry?
I did a little bit of healthcare. I consulted with like a lot of like home health agencies. A lot of B2B, B2B like in the tech energy sector. Um, I did one consumer client because in my agency work, I did a lot of e-commerce. Ironically, I'm doing e-commerce again this right now. Um, but a lot of B2B tech, emerging tech, a lot of startups.
What does healthcare look like? Like when you're doing a B2B marketing, when you take a look at, for example, the audience where they sit at, where do they spend their time? IT, we know to some extent, and finance, we know where they kind of spend. But healthcare, where are they spending their time?
Healthcare is really hard to break into because you have to find the right publications that they read. And I found that with email, it's probably a little better for healthcare. I don't, that was like well, almost 20 years, not 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Healthcare, like email did well for us back then. SEO did really, really good. Like SEO still is, I don't care what people say, it's not dead, but SEO did the best for me with healthcare.
Okay, okay. And then next, what do you do after that?
Then broke into fintech. I worked for WorldPay. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I absolutely loved it. So um, I was brought on to handle demand gen PPC. We broke some pretty awesome records. Like I had that was the first time I had a real budget. It was so beautiful. It was really nice. Um, but also the first time that I truly worked with sales and customer success and truly had to be that bridge in the middle to make sure I was feeding sales the right clients, the right leads, but also to make sure that the people I was targeting, that the quality was good. So I worked with customer success.
What year was this again for fintech?
Oh gosh, it was probably 2014 because it was right when 2013, 2014, I just had my son.
Okay. Yep. And then you hated healthcare. Actually, the thing is that usually people get into something with e-commerce and then they scale into fintech and then they go to healthcare because healthcare is the toughest
I
market to
kind
crack.
of did it
But
backwards.
you did it. That is what is so interesting about it. Yep. Okay, please tell us about fintech market.
Oh, it's fun. It really is fun. It's very like you heavy compliance driven. Okay, so even my marketing had to be very compliance driven. Lots of legal had to be like legal was in everything. Um, but like fintech is kind of fun because you're dealing with a lot of you get to talk a lot about risk. Okay, and when you talk about risk, it's kind of like a I think it's kind of like a sexy topic. I think I would say that. And but also truly, but you also get to touch on the fact that when you're dealing with fintech, you're also dealing with a variety of industries, specifically retail, right? And I also loved retail, so that was also part of my background. Um, and when you talk about retail, you get to talk about things about uh, the impact you're having on the customer relationship. And so I took that angle with fintech.
So you said in fintech specifically, you were talking in more in terms of complaints because that is what they speak about. That is what they want to hear, right? So do you talk in terms of de-risking, like how do you de-risk their portfolio or whatever the product that you're trying to sell? Are
Yeah.
you saying that this will de-risk your enterprise or whatever the business that they are in?
It wasn't a de-risk. We were selling payment, the payment, the card readers, pretty much, right? So if you think about when you go to the grocery store, what do you scan your card in? We were selling that back at WorldPay. So it was keeping the customer data safe, right, and having that network to keep the credit card information safe. That's what we were talking about back then. So yes, de-risking that in that point of view. Yes.
And what was one learning that you learned in fintech that you probably found that it's a very unique thing that probably you didn't, it was different from healthcare, some unique thing?
I mean, back then I was doing a lot of PPC, and that that was in itself was a big learning. Okay, I did PPC before, but not to the scale that I was doing it with this fintech organization. And it's very fickle. And I got a crash course in seasonality with fintech that I didn't have with other industries before.
How long does it take, for example, to sell a product in terms of when you market it and then there is a buying intent and when the sale is made from healthcare to fintech? What is the time for that?
I think they're both pretty long, to be honest. I think healthcare is probably a little bit longer because you have way more issues to get through with HIPAA and all the things. Um, fintech is probably a little bit easier, so you could probably get away like small to mid market, probably 3 to 6 months, and then the more enterprise level accounts you go after 6 months to a year. But I mean, I think fintech is a lot easier to break into than healthcare.
Okay, okay. So you have healthcare on your resume, and then you have fintech, and then what did Andrea do?
Oh, I went cybersecurity route, and that was fun. That was a startup. Really, truly loved it. Okay, so I dove back into my early adopter niche. Okay, really did a lot of work with social media, and because I was part of the tool. Um, and from there, I pivoted to another cybersecurity. I consulted for. I'm not going to say the name, but I consulted for a bigger cybersecurity group that was bought out by another big corporation. And I love the cybersecurity part. I love the compliance. I love the risk. I loved communicating how how a SaaS uh, tool can keep customer data safe or keep an organization safe from hackers. And like what's black hat, what's red hat, all the different things, right? Like to keep everything compliant was fun.
Why? So this is a question on this. Like you've worked a lot in compliance and healthcare compliance, finance, and then compliance in IT. Does it sell better in terms of complaint in general, not the one that you were working on, but in general, if I were to buy a product, let us say, and I have some buying intent, am I going to buy something that is going to make my life better, efficient, or is it going to will I buy spend on something that is going to make it stable, or will I spend on something that is going to reduce a lot of risk from my lifestyle? Is it which sells better?
I think it's de-risking because if you think about where we are now in I mean everybody is up for grabs. I mean any of us could be attacked, right? So it's how do you protect yourself? How do you protect your company data, your proprietary data from your competitors? But also how do you protect your customer data? Because as we know, companies are getting sued right and left uh, for data breaches.
So you have all three industries, okay, and then what did you do after the other
What
side,
did I do after that?
cybersecurity?
Oh my gosh, my favorite industry of all time is telecom. So I broke into that. I had the best time working at Earthlink and Windstream, and now I'm consulting for an ISP, and that came because of my relationship with folks at Windstream. So I am forever grateful to the telecom industry. Like it's incestuous. There's a lot of change constantly. I read the book Bandwidth earlier this year, and like I mean it's a fun ride, and I kind of like it. I kind of want to stay in it.
Okay, what is the name of the book again?
Bandwidth.
Um, I just have a question. So here, when you have industries, these came in different periods of time, right? You had healthcare, and then fintech, cybersecurity, and then you cracked into telecom. Um, why did it come in this specific order? Like, was it something that you met somebody from here, and is that how the chain came in, or why specific this specific order? Usually, when you're doing consulting, you get customers from all industries,
Yeah.
but why this specific order? Is there any?
There I think maybe God just orchestrated it that way because he knew what my heart could handle. All kidding aside, it just happened. Um, and one of the things that I love about, the fact that I get to do this freelance fraction, it's not really freelance. I don't consider that anymore because I'm at the point now where it's really fractional. Like I'm with an organization for a while. Like I'm with my current one for for another 6 months to a year, if we don't longer. Um, but and I obviously have room to take on more. So, but I think it has more to do with what the need is, and in each one, I did something a little bit different. I took what I learned with me, okay, but the need for the skill I was developing prior to was higher at the next stop. So I think where I'm at now, where as it's not really just marketing, right? It's more of a growth. It's more, and that's a sexy word right now. Growth, revenue, all that stuff is kind of our buzzwords. It's because I've been in so many different industries, and I've ran different types of teams. Okay, I've run marketing teams. I had to run a few sales teams. Okay, that was fun, even though I'm not a sales leader by trade. But I understand where all these different pieces fit together, and all of those different companies, all those different industries, really truly helped me become who I am right now as a leader.
Yeah. I I want to kind of say that I don't think you are freelancing, because freelancing is somebody who is doing an entry level, right? I think you
No.
have a domain expertise in all the industries. This is what I kind of want to talk about, right? And
Yeah.
this is something that even to get an expertise in one industry is very difficult, right? And two and three, and then you have four industries, right?
Yeah.
um, can you tell me a little about currently today, where are the people spending their time in each one of these industries? Let us
Okay.
say if there is the B2B SaaS, and let us talk about maybe B2C. So B2B, where are they in healthcare today?
I'm not. I think they're more in their email, probably reading newsletters. Okay, so I wouldn't discount email and publications. Okay, um, I think that they're trying to be more on LinkedIn and they're trying to be in more networking circles in healthcare because you want to stay connected. Um, in cybersecurity, I think it's the same thing. They have these trade organizations that they probably need to that they share, different research and different like they mind share. They oh my gosh, I can't think of it right now. So you probably have to edit this part out. Yeah. they, they have to really share knowledge, and so I would think a lot of trade shows, trade conferences, maybe LinkedIn. Um, and again, don't discount the trade publications. Don't discount the digital media publishers. In telecom, in the business side of telecom, right? It's the trade publications. It's the UC Today's. It's the different. I mean, there's UC Today's is the one on my mind because I have a really good relationship with them. Um, in the B2C side, right? As because I one of my contracts right now is an ISP. It's really social media, and oh my gosh, I'm going back to my roots with e-commerce and Google, and going even more traditional with traditional media, but understanding the digital side of traditional media.
What are they looking for? Like when they're on this platform, let's say for example, we in terms of distribution, if we were to split it, there is brand marketing and there is
Yeah.
buying intent.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
And we
My,
see a lot of, yeah, we see a lot of coke ads or like any kind of advertisements that we see, but we don't necessarily buy that, but it still registers in our head like this is a brand and this is what they do. When we have the buying intent, it kind of we recall that this is where we need to go and buy. How much should a company spend on brand recognition and how much on buying intent?
so I laugh because this is the conversation I'm pushing right now. Okay. What we know is that AI is changing how everything works, right? Um, it takes, I think I was at SMX in Boston was it last week? And so I heard 2.4 touches before a consumer makes a decision to purchase. Okay. 2.4 touches. So your brand has to be in front of a consumer 2.4 times. Um, my agency, Hot Specs Media, sent me something this week saying that it's 7 touches. Okay, so I think 7 touches is a little bit older data point, but I feel like it's pretty accurate. So, and then one of my challenges coming on board to any organization is how much do we spend on brand, because brand is nice and sexy and we need to get that name out there, but at the same time I'm a revenue leader. I'm going to think with like what's driving revenue. Okay. And if you spend too much on brand, you're not going to drive those conversions to get you that sale, right? Or to get that contract. So I did something unconventional and I took a risk and it worked out. Okay. So with my current engagement, I said, you know what, we're going to cut back on brand paid spend. Okay. That was fun. So we did 90% focus on conversions on orders, 10% on brand, okay, which is people were going to shoot me for this. Um, but I did that on purpose because my responsibility is the revenue number, right? So there's other ways to build brand. And that's the conversation I'm actually having right now with the current team I'm working with is let's build the brand organically. So the community folks, the PR folks, digital PR is going to be is a big thing. I've heard that over and over again. So and really focus in on what people outside the digital space are saying about your brand. Okay, so building the authentic influencer, okay, where you don't have to necessarily pay for it. Building the authentic influencer, building true community, like grassroots brand recognition, is where I tell people to focus. So you still have to focus on it. You still need to have the headcount to do it.
Can I give you some one small insight on this one actually? I think what you're doing is the mode of today. I'll tell you why that is because there are tens and thousands of companies that do the same thing, and they kind of have solved the same problem. And when the user or anybody who's a consumer who's bombarded every day with a lot of information about a lot of products, they fail to remember even a single one of them, unless and
Yeah.
until they have some different advertising or something. I think what you're doing is what enterprises need today in terms of driving revenue first, and then maybe brand recognition is kind of, it comes with it whenever there is a revenue that is part of it. I want to ask, what enterprise size does this work? Does it work for a startup? Because for enterprises who are already established and have a client, maybe they weigh in more in terms of brand recognition and keeping the brand recognition. But what customer size does this work, like within the company? Let's say the company is a startup, then there's, let's say, a mid-size and then an enterprise. For a startup, which one, what is the percentage that they should split on? You said
Yeah.
10% on brand recognition, 90%, and this is for which size actually?
So the 90% conversion to 10% brand on the paid, just on paid, okay, not talking about the organic, although because there's a lot of organic work and we could talk about that cost later. But so that's more so for established brands. Okay, you have product market fit. Okay, now that's just here's the caveat. We're going into new markets. So I'm going to put more boots on the ground to get brand out there. And I'm probably going to say, of this 10% brand budget, I may increase it to 15%. I'm going to be realistic about that. I might increase it 15% in specific channels. Okay. So, but you still need to have build that brand recognition when you enter in new markets. For a startup, okay, you have to focus heavily on brand. So I would, and this is with the caveat of, you have an MVP, you have product market fit. If you don't have product market fit, don't even try. Okay, you need to establish product market fit first. Otherwise, you're going to spin your wheels, waste a lot of money. So if you have product market fit, then you spend 45% brand. Okay, because you still need it, because people don't know who you are.
Agreed. Okay, and 65 maybe on the other end, or
On
55 on the other
demand,
end.
yeah.
Okay. Um, just a question off topic.
Yeah.
What, according to Andreea, is a product market fit? How does Andreea evaluate this product as a product market fit?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. It could be anything really. Product market fit is looking at the customer base and how many of them, what's the churn rate, right? So if if that's low, that's one indicator you have product market fit. Okay, if my CEO, this is I'm going to shout out to TestFit because I was there a while ago. They had an amazing product market fit because they had a product that no one else had. So if you're niche, if you solve a unique problem that no one else solves, you instantly have product market fit. So it depends on how unique you are. If you don't have that unique uh, uh, value proposition, then you have to find something else. And it's usually for that, I would say, like, there's a lot of SaaS companies that do the same thing. Okay, so you do have product market fit, but where do you fit in terms of that product market fit with your competitors? Like, what differentiates you? And it's how fast, and like, what's your conversion rate? So if you have like I would say, and this is off the top of my head, you kind of caught me off guard with this one. If your conversion rate is 40 to 50% of the market share, then I think you have a decent product market fit. It's not the greatest. You want to be at 60%, in my opinion, but that's how I would define it.
So you think conversion should be 60%? Then you
I
have a
think
good
so.
product market fit.
Yeah,
Okay.
it
Conversion in
takes a
terms
lot.
of how many people come in, or was it in terms of how many ads you run?
Conversions, like actual orders, like actual revenue share.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead. You were saying in terms of, so startups, they need to focus 45% on brand, and you said enterprises with the product market fit maybe 15% on brand and more in terms of revenue. Do you cater to all the audiences, towards startup, mid?
Yeah, so when I initially relaunched Kojoy RevGen, I was thinking about like Series A to and beyond, because I've worked with all of them. But the reality is that Kojoy RevGen is I mean, I'm looking at a fractional long term, right? So most of my agreements are a year plus, minimum 6 months, right? But so for them to be able to truly afford me, and for me to truly provide value, I'm looking at Series B and beyond, PE backed companies. There's already a motion in place. Okay, and really they just need someone to fix their revenue and really. Okay, so one of the things that I do best, and it's kind of crazy because I'm a CMO, okay, who understands all aspects of the go-to-market function. Okay. And what I do, even when I'm brought in as a fractional CMO, is I unify all of it. I unify sales, I unify marketing, I unify product. Like I come in and I kind of like fit in the middle. So I consider myself a chief revenue officer just because, a fractional chief revenue officer, because to me, I look at the term revenue, and my job is to generate and fix the revenue engine, fix that revenue architecture. Okay, then that means I'm touching sales, I'm touching marketing, I'm touching product, I'm touching CS too. I don't need to own product and CS, but there's dotted lines into those that we have to work together. I mean, it kind of goes with the whole like joy, co-joy brand. It's like truly unifying. We all get along. We choose to work together. We choose to focus on the shared goals of driving revenue and of growing the company. So that's where I'm at right now.
Where is usually the architecture broken? Most of the use cases
Oh.
where you work, where is it usually broken?
Oh, I think it's between sales and marketing. There's always some sort of friction there, and I hate the word friction because it's overused in AI, but it makes sense here, because someone wants to blame someone. Okay, and I hate this. I hear about how CEOs or other leaders talk about how it's good to have healthy disagreements. Fine, yes, but there really you can there I wouldn't even I think listing it as conflict or disagreement is the wrong term, right? Because then you're saying that there's some sort of animosity and we're butting heads. We shouldn't be doing that, because then you're going to create a divide that keeps those two teams divided. You're not going to unify them.
And like, what do you do to unify them? Like, what is like, how do you bring a common ground between them? What is it that you do?
What we I look at the whole story. Okay, remember I have an English degree background, right? So I look at the whole story and what's the story telling us. Okay, one of my favorite memories is memories. It's like, oh, it's so long ago. It really wasn't that long ago. It was at Jitterbit, and I had to do an internal QBR about the story of where Jitterbit came from and what I was doing to run marketing on a global like landscape to change that story. And I told the story, and the story wasn't pretty, okay? But I came in and I noticed, oh my gosh, there's all these different ways of us defining these data sets, okay? All these KPIs, we want to get to the same number, but yet sales was reporting on one thing. And actually, I think I wrote about that. I think there's on Coach RevGen, there's like a gazillion blogs on this topic, right? Where sales says something, marketing says something else, your CFO says something else, and then the board gets angry because it's like, well, what's the number? So I unified the KPIs. We all came together. We like worked with RevOps. We worked with sales, and then of course I was running on the marketing side. And we all agreed: here's our KPIs. Here's how we define them. Here's the SLAs to go with it, the SOPs to go with it, and then here's this one dashboard in Salesforce. Okay, we were using Salesforce, and here these are the numbers. And then marketing has to then work together with sales to make sure that those numbers pass through cleanly. And even though I wasn't necessarily responsible for that close run revenue number, I still felt responsible for it. So it's marketing owning that number just as much as sales owns it. And then it's customer success owning that number to make sure that those customers don't churn out and that we upsell. And then marketing works with customer success to upsell.
Okay, is the biggest complaint from both of them that the marketing is not done well? That is why sales is bad, and then sales is
Yeah.
not done well. But how does it work vice versa? If
Well, marketing says that sales doesn't close, and sales doesn't close. We give sales volume. Marketing gives the sales the volume. Like we give you all these leads, these marketing qualified leads, and it's your job to close them. You don't respond fast enough, speed to contact, or your messaging is off. You're not using the stuff. You're not using the tools we give you. But so honestly, there's a lot of miscommunication that happens between sales and marketing, and that's what it is. It's like everyone miscommunicates. So if everyone unclogs their ears, unclogs their brains, takes out their biases, okay, and says, here's what the company needs, okay, let's put our own, whatever you got going on aside. That's why I used I ask two questions: how's your heart, and what's your joy meter? Okay, those are fluffy, okay, questions, but they're strategic for business, and or at least for how I run things. And it gets all that personal stuff aside, and it gets you laser focused on the revenue number.
what percentage of revenue numbers change when you fix this one specific issue?
Oh gosh, like the whole thing changes. Like it really
Okay,
does.
Okay, in terms of percentage, maybe like a 20-30% increase, or
No, I'm thinking like 40 to 60% increase. Like
across
it
the board. Like
really,
if you take an average, it's
yeah.
like 40.
Like I'm doing this right now. I'm literally integrating, like we're taking an integrated approach right now. Okay. And we've had some pretty awesome numbers. Okay. I'm not at liberty to say what those numbers are, but we've had some like two, three, we're on a roll right now for one of my clients. Okay. And that's because we're integrating everything.
Okay. When you work, let's say marketing and sales together, right? And then the numbers have to flow. What is one thing that you kind of communicate to marketing? Do you change the way they work, or you just fix the communication pipeline?
Oh, we
Because
changed
I
the way
think
that
to
we
some
work.
extent, okay. Can you give me an example of what that would be like?
So marketing itself is pretty segmented. Okay. Because you've got email marketers, you've got the demand gen people, you've got the brand content people, all those. Okay. And they don't come together and they don't say, here's what we're working on. One of the things I just recently implemented is we're all going to come together as a team. Here's what here are the themes, or here's the focus. Okay, so as a leader I'm going to come in with the focus, and I'm going to say, how can we together collectively work together? I don't dictate. Okay, this is where I'm not bossy anymore. I don't dictate, tell everyone what to do. I let them figure it out and I guide them to the right decisions. Right, I help them think for themselves, because if you empower your team to actually to do to come up with the solutions versus us telling them, right? They're going to do better work and they're going to come up with better solutions and better campaigns and better messaging and all the things. So I start with marketing to integrate the functions together so that way they're just not on their own doing their own little thing. And then you take that idea of integration and you apply it to sales and you apply it to customer success and then you apply it to product, and everyone ends up working together. We're all going to sit around the campfire and sing kumbaya together and then celebrate the fact that we've generated our sales numbers.
So breaking the silo is probably the biggest breakthrough. Is probably okay. And do
Yeah.
you guide in terms of distribution? Do you fix like this distribution works, this distribution doesn't work?
Yeah,
Do you take a metric? If so,
I do.
what would be a good metric to?
So I look at just the conversion channels, right? So I look at, so forget the fluffy metrics of the engagement and all that stuff. I don't care about that, right? I look at the conversions from the very beginning to lead to a deal or to a sale or whatever, right? Whatever industries the terms are for you. And that number, that conversion between from the very, very beginning, so to the very, very end, that conversion is what I look at. And the actual hard number. So for instance, if I know, or in one instance, I know that organic and paid are kind of neck and neck. Okay. I obviously have to invest in both. Okay. So, but then I know how much revenue is generated by organic versus how much revenue is generated by paid. And then knowing what there's all the different, the finance loves this part, because then we optimize based on keeping that number, our cost as low as possible.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk a little bit in terms of platforms.
Yes.
If you
Oh,
were to rank platforms of
yeah.
distribution, how would you rank them? Let's say LinkedIn, Reddit, or like email, SMS,
Yeah.
phone call, in-person sales, seminars. How would you rank them in terms of importance for B2B?
I'm gonna get I'm gonna get so much hate for this. I hate Google. I hate Google so much with a passion, just because it's so expensive for a lot of people, and and Google's out to make money for Google, and it's not the so do I. But it's a necessary evil. Okay, listen, I've been doing it for like 20 years. Um, Google's not my favorite platform, but you still have to do it. Okay, so don't ignore it. If you can afford to do it, if you have enough market share where you don't have to spend on Google Ads, I've done it before. I've done it several times where I'm not spending in Google. Okay. I think for B2B, you definitely need to invest into LinkedIn. You need to invest in programmatic display options. Okay. I love 6sense. I will sing their praises over and over and over and over again. They've got, and it's and ABM in general. You definitely need to, if you're in B2B tech, whether you're an SMB to enterprise, you need to have an ABM program. I
Sorry, what
love
was that? ABN program, is it?
ABM, account based marketing.
What is that?
It's where you take your target audience, right? So you have your ICP and you specifically go after them no matter where they are.
Okay.
Okay, so whether
You're
it's
saying that LinkedIn does it naturally?
LinkedIn does it, but if you go a bigger picture, a platform like 6sense will do it. They're known for it. Um, so they have an amazing. They don't. It's not their. They don't think they really talk about their advertising platform as much, but they have an amazing platform that I truly have found a lot of good success there. Um, you still need uh, to be involved in trade organizations and going to conferences. I feel like because of AI, there's this need for human to human connection that you get at conferences that you don't otherwise. Um, I don't necessarily think that you need to, sponsor. That's a great play for brand if you have the money, but you can still go to these conferences and not spend a lot of money and still get a decent amount of revenue from them. Um, I think for the way AI is changing the environment, you need to be involved with trade publications. So think about what you're reading and the newsletters that go with it. I think there's still a spot for that. Email still is one of the highest converters for revenue. So, but the way you get there is by being active in whatever trade publication that's relevant to you and getting them to put you in newsletters. So it's not necessarily you constantly emailing, although that's part of it, but it's other people emailing on your behalf and having your content show up there.
In terms of this is in terms of buying intent or in terms of brand recognition?
Okay.
Which
Oh,
one is it? These ones. Is it buying
oh,
intent or brand recognition? These ones, the Google ads, seminars, trade publications.
I mean, Google is just pure conversions and brand. Okay. Um, the trade publications is both brand and conversions because you can definitely convert and nurture those folks once they come in. LinkedIn and ABM and Sixth Sense, all of that come together is. I mean, it's both. All of these really are both because you need both. They do a good job for both.
When you pick a project, like when you pick something to somebody to consult, do you look at the company, the product, or the entrepreneur?
Ooh, um, I look at the entrepreneur first. One, it's going to be a long-term engagement. I need to know that we can work together. And so if you can handle a crazy, quirky Romanian lady who thinks outside the box, then great, let's work together. But I also look at the company as a whole. So I just launched a tool on my website, and I'm pretty proud of it because it was an impulsive, like I want research, and I'm going to build it. And I was curious about how a particular telecom stacked in terms of revenue growth year over year compared to the rest of the market. And then I'm like, well, this goes beyond telecom. This goes to SaaS. This goes to all sorts of companies. So I did the research, and then I built this tool to spit out whether or not the company it falls within good revenue growth range. So I look at that, like what's their trajectory. I took a project recently that did not have good trajectory, thinking I could save them, and I could not. So I learned my lesson that way.
In terms of revenue, do you look at trajectory, or do you in terms of conversion rate, or in terms of how many users they add?
I look at year over year growth. I want to know what their revenue was the year prior and what their expected growth rate is going to be versus what they are right now.
Okay. Okay. What causes a hockey stick moment?
The hockey stick moment? Oh gosh, a lot. I mean, me coming on board for one. I tease about that, but that's true. That's true. There's like when I come on board, you're going to see that dip, and I'm not just saying that because I'm full of myself. I'm saying that because I worked hard. I've done it. Okay. And I've done it quickly, which is crazy. It's like, it's really weird, but I mean, I believe in the work I do. Um, but it, most organizations either do brand or demand and they don't ever combine both. And while I'm probably more demand focused, okay, I still loop in brand. And when you loop everything in, when everything is truly integrated, okay, when we're singing Kumbaya together around the campfire and all the teams do that, then you see that hockey stick moment where things go drastically up because everybody's communicating, everybody's working towards the same goal, and there's no friction. I hate that word, but there's no friction between the teams to get in the way of actual growth.
Do you think that enterprises, even though they are an enterprise in the scale that they are, they should still work with the startup culture, where everybody is on the same flat board, where everybody can communicate with each other, and then no, okay,
No, I think enterprises want to be that way, and I've worked for a lot of enterprises that have startup culture. They've done it successfully, and that's why they are successful. Okay, but when you have a lot of red tape and a lot of like it, I mean, we've seen it, right? The middle managers right now are the ones being let go. I don't think that I think that should stop laying people off. Okay, but I think there's a way to level out that transparency without layoffs, without letting the middle managers go. I think we have to change. I say this all the time to my teams. I say this to my son. I say this to anyone who will listen to me. Change your mindset. Change your mindset. It's not about you. Okay. The world does not care about the little micro feelings that you feel if it's getting in the way of revenue, because you should care about the revenue. That's why, again, I ask, how's your heart and where's your joy meter on a scale of 1 to 5? Get the feelings out of the way and focus on the customer, focus on the revenue. That's not to say you don't, there it is. That's not to say you don't have that, right? Like, you still have to have that. You still have to choose it. You still have to be emotionally intelligent. You still have to be a human. So it's balancing being a human being, a data robot like I am.
Wonderful. In terms of scaling, I just had a question. If, let's say, for example, there are entrepreneurs who just started, what is their go-to for the first, let's say, 100 customers?
What's their oh gosh. Definitely, I mean, I hate to say it because I'm doing it too. I have to network. It's networking and it's getting your name out there and it's being the face of your company. I don't consider myself a salesperson. I'm terrible at it. Um, for my own brand, I can go sell anybody else's product, no problem. Okay. I can be on a conference floor and I can go talk to Joe Schmo across the street and be like, hey, you need to come buy XYZ product because it's that good. Okay. I can sell anything. But when it comes to my own, it's harder to do. Okay, you're closer to it. So, but it's going within your network and selling to your network first.
That's where it starts.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Currently, you sit on a lot of board as a member, or either in terms of advising. Is it something when you step aside in terms of when you're operational in a company and when you are guiding and coaching them? What is the difference in terms of the advice that you give?
Oh, well, see, when I'm guiding it, I'm not as 100. I'm not as invested as I am. Like, I take it personally when I'm working for when I have a direct engagement. To me, it's personal. That line is blurred. Okay, my son says he doesn't want to be me because I work too much. Okay, because to me, it's personal. Okay, uh, and so time is currency uh, in my life. So whereas when I'm advising, it's a little bit different. I'm advising a human, and they're responsible for the revenue number, not me. So it's different. I have less skin in the game on revenue side to keep me up at night, to keep me working 24/7. Okay.
Right, right. Thanks a lot. I think I don't have any other questions for you.
If it's been fun.